Home means something different to everyone. But with Rocket Mortgage, home can mean even more. It can mean a college education, taming your high-interest debt, even a renovation. We've made it easier than ever to use your home equity. That home you worked so hard for, now it can work hard for you. Call 800-4ROCKET or visit rocket.com to find out more.
Rocket Mortgage, LLC, licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org, number 3030.
This is the Roger Stone Show on 77 WABC.
A man who's gone through hell, but he's kept going, and he's smart, and he's strong, and people love him. Not everybody, but people love him and respect him. Roger Stone.
Now, here's Roger Stone.
Welcome. This is the Roger Stone Show. Joining me now is father, grandfather, author, and author of the book Chronicles of the Last Jewish Gangster. He is, above all, a patriot. And Myron Sugerman joins us on the Roger Stone Show right now.
Okay. Thank you so much, Roger. It's a pleasure to be on your show. We had a good conversation yesterday, so I think that I'm going to go right into explaining who I am and what I'm all about.
That would have been my first question, so please, fire away.
Okay, so I'm second generation. I'm from the world of the Jewish mob that goes back to the 1900s. My father, may rest in peace, was close with Abner Longie's Willman, who was the Al Capone of the state of New Jersey during alcohol. Doc Thatcher, Meyer Lansky was a very, very good friend of my father's. My father was one of the investors, the early investors, and got out of Cuba in time before the revolution. But we go back a long, long time in history, and I was taught the gambling machine industry from my father. But the outlaw aspect of my life was not the only side of my life. I was also taught patriotism, not just American patriotism, not just Jewish patriotism, but both, where there'd be no conflict one with the other. Let me give a little history, Roger. Starting in the 1930s with the rise of anti-Semitism, Jew hatred, and neo-Nazi, Fritz Kuhn came to the United States after World War I, appealed to the large German community in northern New Jersey. Newark, New Jersey was a battleground. There were the Jewish mob under the leadership of Abner Longie's Willman to end with Nat Arno, a former prize fighter. They fought the American Nazi Party. Many, many battles. There's a book called The Nazis of Newark. It was written by a friend of mine, which I helped him write, by the name of Warren Grover. The name of the book is Nazis of Newark. And Meyer Lansky was asked by Judge Nathan Perlman to do exactly the same thing in Yorkville up on Lexington and 86th Street, which was a major German enclave at the time. And Fritz Kuhn again appealed and got his. They did an effective job of the boys went up there. Now, Lucky Luciano was said to Meyer Lansky, Meyer, if you need any of my guys to help you, he says, you can count on it. And Meyer said to Lucky Luciano, he says, it's a Jewish problem, Lucky Charlie. I appreciate that, your help and your offer, but it's going to be resolved by Jewish boys. But that didn't stop Meyer Lansky and Lucky Luciano from a joint venture cooperation, working with a naval intelligence officer by the name of Charles Hepburn in the 1942, after the explosion of the sinking of the SS Normandy, which was a French luxury ship that was being refitted in the port of New York to send troops to go to Europe to fight the Axis. And that ship was destroyed, it was sunk, blew up and sunk in the port of New York Harbor. And Charles Heffernan reached out to Moses Polikoff, who was the attorney for Lucky Luciano Marlansky. And to make a long story short, it was a joint venture cooperation of employing the longshoremen and every saloon keeper, every cigarette girl, every prostitute, every pimp in the city of New York to keep eyes and ears open against Nazi sabotage and espionage, which was a concern of the intelligence department of the United States government after the sinking of the Normandy, because it was always assumed that they always believed that it was a result of Nazi sabotage. The Jewish mob, Roger, played a very effective role in supplying weapons and arms to both the two militant organizations in helping to create the State of Israel. That was Haganah under David Ben-Gurion and the Irgun under Menachem Begin. They both reached out to the Jewish gangsters to help supply weapons and arms. But again, effectively, if it wasn't for the Italian gangsters of Frank Costello, Albert Anastasia, whatever the goods or the weapons that were acquired and accumulated and shipped out of the port of New York, New Jersey, was done as a result of the Zionists going to Meyer Lansky and to Abner Logis Wellman and asking them to use their influence with the longshoremen, which of course was controlled by Albert Anastasia, who was the High Commissioner, executioner of Murder Incorporated, together with Frank Costello, who ascended to the leadership of the Genovese crime family after Lucky Luciano was deported by Governor Dewey. My own involvement as a result of that kind of tradition and history is, yes, I opened up New York City for gambling in 1977, which had been closed down in 1941 by Mayor LaGuardia, who destroyed the slot machines of Frank Costello and Meyer Lansky. And I brought that back in 1977 for recognition for my achievements in bringing back illegal gambling. I was given a 2-year tax-free paid vacation by the United States government. By the way, the same machines today that you can play on your iPhone. So I think that's a pretty good summary of, one other thing, of course, was as a result of that tradition that was handed down to me, I was very, very close with Simon Wiesenthal. I offered my services to him in 1965 in Vienna, Austria. When I was 27 years of age, I went to see him, and I became his man in South America. I have letters to that effect, which I was specifically used as a messenger service for certain people to deliver certain messages, a certain message. But the main objective was to try and nail Joseph Mengele in Paraguay, in Asunción, Paraguay. I was able to finally get the people that had cited him, and that information, of course, was sent to Simon Wiesenthal, who in turn sent it to Mossad. So I think that I've given you the rundown.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can find options that fit your budget and potentially lower your bills. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
Morning decisions. A creamy mocha frappuccino drink? A sweet vanilla? Maybe a smooth caramel? Or that white chocolate mocha? Whichever you choose, delicious coffee awaits. Start your day with bottled Starbucks Frappuccino drinks. Pick up a bottle near you wherever you buy your groceries.
In golf, precision is everything, on and off the course. PGA of America chose advanced 5G solutions from T-Mobile for Business for smooth operations and seamless transactions. Together, we enhance ticketing and concessions for better fan experiences from gate to green. This is pro-level efficiency. This is PGA of America with T-Mobile for Business. Take your business further at T-Mobile.com/now.
Fellas, you know Degree Cool Rush deodorant, right? Well, last year they changed the formula, and guys were mad about it. One dude even started a petition. So guess what? Degree heard us, admitted they messed up, and brought the original Cool Rush scent back exactly how it was. And it's in Walmart, Target, and other stores now for under $4. So grab some and remember why its cool, crisp, and fresh scent made it the #1 men's antiperspirant for the last decade. Degree Cool Rush is back, and it smells like victory for all of us.
Yeah, I think many Americans are not familiar with the crucial role that both the Italian and the Jewish mob played in working with federal officials to crush the Nazis and to win World War II. There are some books about it, but our guest today, Myron Sugerman, he was involved firsthand. Myron, I saw a great interview with Patrick Ben-David that you gave when you said the biggest gangsters of them all is the government. What did you mean by that?
They got all the power, all the money, and they do whatever they want to do, and there's no... our former president is finding that out right now, that they do whatever they just... Whatever the political mood strikes them, they'll go ahead and do it. Listen, they locked me up for 2 years for operating slot machines in order to take away my business to give it to somebody else, basically to themselves. And you can play the same machines. I went in front of Judge Harold Green, the one that broke up the AT&T monopoly and was the judge in the Iran-Contra affair at the time with Reagan. And I had a federal case, and I went in front of him, and he asked the prosecutor, what's the difference between the machines that Mr. Sugarman operates and what Washington, D.C. lottery operates? I'm confused. And the prosecutor says, well, Mr. Sugarman is associated with organized crime. So Harold Green, who was an escapee from Nazi Germany, received a letter from Simon Wiesenthal saying, what organized crime? Myron Sugerman helps me pursue the real criminals of history, the Nazis in South America. So we can see through all of this tremendous amount of hypocrisy, and politics, of course, is something like that. So that's why when we had that conversation with Patrick David, who's a hell of a good guy, great guy, and asked very good questions. As you and I had a great discussion last evening before we get onto this particular interview, you asked some very insightful and penetrating questions as well. And the answer to you got to hope that the guy that's in power is a patriot, is not just a politician, but he's a statesman, and he's got the best interest of the country at heart, which, quite frankly, is a subject of another discussion.
Well, we'll get into that in a second. In terms of post-use of the RICO law, which was really, ironically, pioneered by Rudy Giuliani, to what extent does the mob exist today?
They're not stupid. They're very intelligent guys. The leadership of mob they're also they're evolutionizing. They see what's going on as far as modern technology is concerned, how it affects and how it changes, and the need for forget that brute force nonsense. One of the lessons that I've taught a lot of guys, and I think that you'll appreciate it, is I tell fellas, guys, if you're thinking of using your muscle at the end, it's because you didn't use your brain in the beginning. So I think that your modern mob, from the experiences and from my observations, I think that they've also made a major evolution in their thinking as to how to proceed for the future. It's not. You're always going to have those that are going to. There's an expression in Spanish: "Hecho la ley, hecho trampa." It comes out the law, and you figure out how to get around it. All right. Man-made law is man-made. It's a variable. Moral law, God's law, is a fixed. On the question of the man law, man looks for the opportunity to get around it, circumvent it, whether it's legal or it's not legal. As long as he can get around it, he's going to do it.
If you had to look back on your long career, what would you say the most daring operation you were ever involved in was?
The most daring operation that I ever was involved with was probably in Asunción, Paraguay. I was warned off by the Jews there, please stop going around asking questions. You're putting us in a lot of danger because Paraguay was under the dictatorship of Alfredo Stroessner, Generalissimo Alfredo Stroessner, for 37 years. There were Jews that escaped and settled in Paraguay after the war. Most of them, virtually all of them, were Holocaust survivors. And the word got around that there's somebody representing the interest of the documentation center from Vienna, meaning Wiesenthal, that was asking a lot of questions. And I was told, stick to your slot machine business and forget about asking questions. I had all kinds of experiences as far as life is concerned. I had 3 state cases, 3 federal cases. I ended up doing a couple of years jail time. You learn a lot by living on the edge, by living outside the law. And one of the most important lessons that you learn as far as life is concerned, whether you're living inside the law or outside the law, is that you got to be honest. You got to be straightforward, and you got to learn how to say things in a certain way so that even if you're telling the truth, you got to use the right language, the right words, the right expressions in explaining yourself.
Now, you told me yesterday that as a Jew and as an American, because of his keeping his commitment to move the capital to Jerusalem, because of the Abraham Accords, because of his stout defense and loyalty to the state of Israel, even though you're not political, that you are a supporter of President Donald Trump. Yet polling, which I saw just this morning, showed that among American Jews, Donald Trump has a 77% disapproval rating, and that if the election were held today, 68% of Jewish voters say they would vote for Joe Biden, while only 22% said they'll vote for Trump. That leaves 10% undecided. I tend to believe that those are overwhelmingly Trump voters who don't want to say. But 74% think Biden's doing a good job handling the war in Israel. I just find this all unbelievable, literally almost insanity. But what do you think of it?
Well, the greatest friend of the Jewish people, going back in time in history, this is very interesting, was Julius Caesar. The Jews of the Roman Empire at the time of Caesar, he was so great to the Jewish people that our people mourned his passing at a cemetery at his graveside 30 days, which is the traditional Shaloshim. Donald Trump's greatness exceeds that of Julius Caesar. Now, people are going to say to me, "Well, what's the matter with this guy?" Well, he's an old gangster, so what the hell does he know? Well, I'll tell you what I know. Well, not only did everything that you cited is absolutely correct. He He moved the embassy, which everybody said they would do, but nobody did it, which was an incredible gesture. Everybody said the Arabs are going to start another intifada or start another a war as a result of him moving the embassy, and nothing ever happened. The man recognized sovereignty as far as the Golan Heights is concerned. He recognized sovereignty as far as Judea Samaria. He picked a gal and worked in the United Nations, Nikki Haley. She was a fantastic defender of the state of Israel. She didn't. She was. And he gets the credit. He picked it. The Abrahamic agreement. That's the man is entitled to the Nobel Prize. The Abrahamic agreement is earth-shaking. That you had Sudan, you had Morocco, UAE, Bahrain, all recognizing, together with Jordan, together with Egypt. And if he was still in power, you would have had more nations added on, particularly Saudi Arabia, which is, of course, the home of the Muslim faith. Without Saudi Arabia, nothing could have been done. Saudi Arabia obviously gave its approval to the other nations to go ahead and enter into the Abraham Accord until the second term of Trump. Besides all of this, he made Israel not just a power in the Middle East, but he helped to make Israel a power throughout the entire world. The Muslim world suddenly was recognizing Israel for who it was. Now, am I capable of telling you what would have happened if Trump would have been president today? In all probability, we would not have had the 7th of October 2023 because he was in the process of destroying the regime of Iran through punishing sanctions. I'm not interested in talking about this man's personality. That's irrelevant. I'm talking about the man's accomplishment, his deeds. It was remarkable. And amongst the percentage of the 20% or whatever it is that we represent of Trump supporters, we recognize that he was, in fact, historically greater than Charlemagne, greater than the one that I'm thinking of the emperor from Poland that invited the Jews, that was benevolent to the Jews. Whoever was benevolent to the Jews got rewarded. And in the particular case of Donald Trump, he was incredibly great to the Jews, incredibly benevolent to the state of Israel, and he got punished. If he was to go to Israel today and run for prime minister, I think that Bibi would be in trouble.
Oh my God, it's the coolest thing ever. Hey guys, have you heard of Goldbelly? Well, check this out. It's this amazing site where they ship the most iconic, famous foods from restaurants across the country, anywhere nationwide. I've never found a more perfect gift than food. They ship Chicago deep dish pizza, New York bagels, Maine lobster rolls, and even Ina Garten's famous cakes. Seriously. So if you're looking for a gift for the food lover in your life, head to goldbelly.com and get 20% off your first order with promo code GIFT.
This episode is brought to you by Hulu, presenting Paradise. Paradise is Hulu's critically acclaimed addictive drama series, starring Sterling K. Brown, Julianne Nicholson, and James Marsden. The Daily Beast calls Paradise your next TV obsession, and the New York Times says it's exhilarating in all the right ways. Paradise is for your Emmy consideration in all categories, including Outstanding Drama Series. For more information, visit fyc.hulu.com.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. Not everyone is careful with your personal information, which might explain why there's a victim of identity theft every 5 seconds in the U.S. Fortunately, there's LifeLock. LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats to your identity. If your identity is stolen, a U.S.-based restoration specialist will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year by visiting lifelock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Mic check. 1, 2. Are we recording? Hi, I'm Michelle Bernstein, an award-winning chef, restaurateur, and mom. I have a lot on my plate, including my psoriatic arthritis symptoms. That's why I was prescribed Cosentyx. It helps me move better.
Cosentyx secukinumab is prescribed for people 2 years of age and older with active psoriatic arthritis. Don't use if you're allergic to Cosentyx. Before starting, get checked for tuberculosis. An increased risk of infections and lowered ability to fight them may occur, like tuberculosis or other serious bacterial, fungal, or viral infections. Some were fatal. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms like fevers, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, had a vaccine or plan to, or if inflammatory bowel disease symptoms develop or worsen. Serious allergic reactions and severe eczema-like skin reactions may occur. Learn more at 1-844-COSENTYX or Cosentyx.com.
Ask your rheumatologist about Cosentyx.
I've always said, I've said it on this show, the one man who doesn't get recognized as a friend to Israel is none other than Richard Nixon. In 1973, a massive failure by Israeli intelligence. In the 1973 Yom Kippur War, the Israelis find themselves under vicious attack by the Egyptians and the Syrians. They are quickly out of ammunition. Golda Meir makes an appeal to President Richard Nixon for emergency lethal aid. Dr. Henry Kissinger is opposed. The Joint Chiefs Chairman, Admiral Thomas Moorer, is opposed. The entire national security apparatus of the Nixon administration is opposed. Oh, it will inflame the Russians, Nixon is telling. It will challenge the Russians. Nixon says, the hell with that. I want to airdrop $37 million of lethal aid to the Israelis immediately. Kissinger tries to wait Nixon out. 24 hours go by. Nixon says, well, has the stuff left for Israel? No, Mr. President, we haven't decided what kind of plane to send. Nixon calls Admiral Thomas Moorer and says, if that plane isn't in the air, send anything that can fly. If that plane is not in the air, I'm going to come over to the Pentagon and put my foot up your ass. They don't play that Watergate era tape for you. Richard Nixon saved Israel from complete annihilation in the 1973 war. Now, did he make some anti-Semitic comments when he was in the White House? Yes, definitely. But as Golda Meir said, what matters more, words or deeds? Words or deeds? I'm shocked at the reaction going on in America about this war. That the Democratic Party of Harry Truman, the founder of Israel, the man who helped Israel be born, seems to have been completely infiltrated by radical Islam, by the pro-Palestinians. And New York City's become a very dangerous place, from what I can see.
So, Roger, your knowledge is right on the money. Richard Nixon, who was alleged to have been an anti-Semite, was probably one of the greatest friends of the state of Israel, because you're right. I think it was Alexander Haig that went to Nixon. Then Kissinger, the Jew, was the one that said, "Let him get bloodied." And Nixon overruled it and said, "I want all those Hercules load every bullet we've got left, send it to Israel." And in fact, if it wasn't for Nixon, there would not be an Israel today. Kissinger, who was an escapee from Nazi Germany, was the one that told Nixon, and it was Alexander Haig that told the president, "You can't allow this to happen." And Nixon said, "Absolutely not." Now, as far as Truman was concerned, it was Eddie Jacobson, his old partner, from the haberdashery business in Lincoln, Missouri. The Zionists used him to get to Truman, and Truman told him, "You kike SOB, you stop calling me. You're making up. You're annoying me." And Eddie Jacobson says, "But Harry Truman, we're buddies. You got it. The Zionists are making me call you because they want to introduce somebody by the name of Weitzman." And Weizmann, who was the first president of the state of Israel, and he met with Truman. And even though Truman came from a Midwest background, wears white vest, she didn't allow Jews in her home. But he's the guy that said 20 minutes after David Ben-Gurion announced the establishment of the State of Israel on May 14th, 1948, he, in defiance of General Marshall, George C. Marshall, it was his United States Secretary of State. He told him, he told Truman, if you do this, I'm gonna quit. I'm gonna embarrass you. Truman says, go ahead. Truman went ahead and do it. It's not what people, the words, that's irrelevant. You can't get hung up on that. You've got to see what the human being does in terms of deeds. And as far as Donald Trump is concerned, it's mind-boggling what the man has done as far as the state of Israel is concerned. And unfortunately and regrettably and sadly, our people never, not only didn't show the appreciation and the gratitude, but they vilify him. And yet if he was to go to the state of Israel, he would be eating in 7 million Jewish homes. He'd be eating, they would put him at the head of the table. He'd be like King Solomon.
All right. Unfortunately, we have to wrap it up there. Myron Sugerman, I want to thank you for joining us on the Roger Stone Show. He is the author of Chronicles of the Last Jewish Gangster. Thank you so very much, folks. And stand by because radio legend of Chicago, Mancow, joins us next.
It's the Roger Stone Show on 77 WABC.